Welcome to this explainer. Today we're opening up a recovered archive file, a final integration layer between human feeling and systemic design. We're going to explore a really specific, quiet phenomenon, the gradual disappearance of distinct human experiences. We'll be looking closely at what happens when nothing feels special anymore, and we'll do it through calm, detached observation.
We'll be dispassionately outlining this whole system through 6 distinct phases. We've got recognition, contrast, anticipation, the observer effect, normalization, and finally, wonder.
Phase 1. Recognition. Let's look at the surface level. The baseline observation here is simple, but honestly it's a bit unsettling. Life still offers us events, right? Vacations happen, promotions arrive, packages get delivered, and goals are finally reached. Yet, despite the sheer volume of these events, fewer and fewer of them actually register as emotionally significant. When this emotional distance shrinks, say, the vacation ends and you immediately just snap back to baseline, we usually interpret that emotional flatness as a personal failure. We figure we're just getting older, or we blame burnout, stress, or just assume we're way too distracted to enjoy life anymore.
But we really need to look beyond the individual here. This isn't a personal condition, it's actually a massive environmental shift. We are living inside a framework where all experiences, from the completely mundane to the genuinely life-changing, arrive carrying the exact same emotional signals. When everything around you is highly accessible and perfectly optimized, nothing actually stands out.
Phase 2. Contrast. The loss of difference. Let's dive into the environmental mechanics behind this. We have to understand that human attention simply didn't evolve to process a continuous, endless flow of stimuli. It evolved to detect difference. It's wired for rarity and separation. For most of human history, scarcity acted as this natural filter for our attention. Because things were rare, they naturally stood apart. But our modern environment has fundamentally changed those rules. It doesn't optimize for preservation or distance anymore. It optimizes for continuous, uninterrupted flow.
Think about it. The extraordinary and the ordinary don't live in different worlds now. They share the exact same delivery streams. You're looking at the same glowing screens, hearing the same notification sounds, and getting caught in the same algorithmic loops. A profound, life-altering message and an update on your takeout delivery literally arrive through the exact same digital interface.
The inevitable conclusion of this kind of design is that contrast is completely lost. When the psychological boundaries separating one experience from another weaken for long enough, a very specific adaptation kicks in. The extraordinary simply starts feeling ordinary. The distance between them has basically been compressed to zero.
Phase 3. Anticipation. The mechanics of waiting.
Modern systems have absolutely perfected the art of generating engagement long before an experience even begins. Anticipation isn't just a byproduct of waiting anymore, it's an industrialized feature designed specifically to hold your attention. Notice how your imagination expands the future without any friction at all. While you're waiting for a trip or a new product drop, your mind builds a perfected, idealized version of it. And because that version exists only in your imagination, it completely dominates your cognitive space, totally free from the messy limitations of the real physical world.
Because expectation expands endlessly, reality is basically set up to fail. When the actual event finally arrives, it brings constraints. You get flight delays, fatigue, ordinary details, physical limits. It becomes increasingly difficult for the physical moment to compete with that flawless, anticipated version you've been living with in your head for weeks.
Phase 4. Observer. The evaluation loop.
Something fascinating happens to our minds when we're continuously connected. As we participate in an event, our cognition quietly splits into 2 distinct roles, the participant and the psychological observer. Just follow the timeline of a modern experience. Minute 1, you enter the experience. Minute 5, the observer steps in and you start evaluating. You think, is this worth photographing? Am I enjoying this enough? Will this even matter later? By minute 10, your deep immersion declines. This continuous self-evaluation quietly and permanently divides your attention.
And because your attention is permanently split, reality just arrives smaller. The experience is partially monitored rather than fully inhabited. So you leave what should be a remarkable moment with this strange sense of dissatisfaction. Not because the experience itself was lacking, but because you were never fully inside of it to begin with.
Phase 5. Normalization. The baseline shift. We have to look closely at the sheer efficiency of this system. Our environment is uniquely capable of turning absolute novelty into a familiar baseline way faster than meaning can actually accumulate in our minds. It operates on this rapid, unrelenting cycle. You anticipate the new stimulus, it arrives, and almost instantly it just becomes the baseline. The brand new phone becomes just your phone. The dream job becomes just work. Before one experience can even fully settle into your memory, the next recommendation is already there, demanding your attention.
Over time, everything just blends into a gray blur. It's all the same. And here's the tragic irony. We tend to interpret this rapid adaptation as proof that we need a bigger emotional hit. We assume the vacation just wasn't exotic enough, and that fuels an endless loop of searching for stronger experiences that the system is only going to normalize all over again.
Phase 6. Wonder. The collapse of uncertainty.
Wonder isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a structural condition. It depends entirely on encountering the unexplained. It requires coming face to face with something your mind cannot immediately categorize or predict. But look at how our modern environment treats the unknown. It eliminates it as early as possible. Every restaurant is rated. Every movie is explained and previewed. Every destination is shared in high definition. We literally map out every single detail of an experience before we ever make direct, physical contact with it.
As a direct result of all this, wonder declines. The world itself remains infinitely interesting, of course, but this constant artificial familiarity quietly convinces your nervous system that it already knows everything. We show up carrying so many previews and opinions that the cognitive space where genuine discovery once occurred is already full.
Phase 7. Integration. The final realization.
We have been searching for meaning by trying to accumulate more extraordinary objects and events. But here's the thing. Meaning was never actually inside the object itself. The clinical conclusion of this archive is this. Special moments stopped registering because full, undivided presence became the absolute rarest resource we possess. We multiplied our opportunities, sure, but we divided our attention so thoroughly that we lost the ability to fully inhabit the moments we fought so hard to reach.
Let's just let this archival realization hang in the air for a second. Special requires distance. It requires distinction. It requires isolation and contrast. These are the invisible borders that make meaning visible to the human mind. Without distance, nothing can stand apart.
Maybe life did not become meaningless. Maybe meaning simply became harder to distinguish from everything around it. The ideas are human. The narration is digital. Punchline Protocol explored how it feels when nothing feels special anymore. Darkside Protocol examined the system that eliminated contrast. Debrief Protocol exists where recognition becomes integration. Protocol Multiverse continues. Interpretation remains yours.